So today I want to talk about my photography journey, how it started, and really just what inspired me. I chose this location, which I think is beautiful, to show you guys a bit of the beauty, because I think sharing beautiful places is very worthwhile, but also because it actually relates, not this location specifically, but the type of environment I'm in really does relate to the topic that I want to talk about today, and that is just photography and my photography, to be specific. So, my photography, I didn't start out, you probably know me as photographing people, and that is mainly what I do today. But I didn't start out photographing people. I started out photographing the environment around me, and that was nature. And it was beautiful nature, not just any nature. I think some of the most beautiful nature in the world. So I grew up in George, which is in the middle of the Garden Route in South Africa, southern tip of Africa, and the Garden Route is at the bottom, so the southern part, southern coast of South Africa. And it is truly, I believe, honestly, I believe that it is truly one of the most beautiful areas in the world. So growing up in that environment, it was very natural and very easy to take that opportunity and photograph the environment that was around me. And there's so much to photograph. That is one of the things that I'm really excited in bringing my business back to George and back to the Garden Route is I know that the scenery and the environment is just beyond inspiring. My first camera that I bought for myself. I was really excited about it. It is not any impressive kind of camera. It was a Nikon Coolpix. I don't even remember the exact specifications. And I was just so excited because this little camera could literally fit in my pocket. And I took it everywhere, and I took probably thousands of photos, but if not thousands, at least hundreds of photos. And I was so excited because I grew up in a family which really prioritized making memories, capturing memories specifically, so using photography in that way. And I remember we always had a camera when I was very, very young. I don't remember this. We had film cameras, and then later we had obviously digital cameras, and we would use that camera literally until it stopped working. The sensor would die, and we'd start getting these streaks across our photos because the sensor was no longer picking up the light correctly. And but yeah, that was my first camera, and I genuinely just took pictures of everything. But what I'd been taught very much is to take pictures of people, friends, family, events. You could say this is when I photographed my first event, which was my good friend. She had, what was it? Probably like her 12th or 13th birthday party. And I decided I'm going to photograph the entire birthday party. And I did. And I sent her all the photos. And I was very proud of it. I was like, that's so cool. I got to photograph a birthday party. But yeah, so that was my first camera, and I really did use it to document things, but I didn't use it in much of a creative or expressive way. And I do see that as influential in my photography journey, but I don't necessarily see it as the start of my photography journey. So the interesting thing is that I think my photography journey actually started when I got my first smartphone. And I was really excited because it was a touchscreen, and I had wanted a touchscreen phone for forever. At that point in time, it was still very new. It was an HTC phone. Some people might know what that is. It's not a very popular brand anymore. But at the time, it was like top of the market. It was better than Samsung. It was competitive with iPhones. And anyway, it had a camera. And to be honest, I don't remember. I think it was a 10 megapixels camera, and it was not the best, quite obviously, but at the time it was the best. And I knew it wasn't the best. I knew it wasn't the same as having a digital camera, but the thing that made it significant and what actually impacted me is I had it on me at all times. As much as I had tried to carry my little my little digital camera with me wherever I went, there were just times I didn't have it with me. And having this camera with me, somehow it made me feel like I could just take pictures of anything. Rather than having to have a reason behind photos, it became an artistic expression. And I started taking pictures of my environment more than just the people in that environment or with me on that day or wherever I was. And I still remember one specific time where I was taking pictures. We were with some friends, my family and I, and I was quite young. I must have been like 13 or 14. And we were walking, and I think I had just gotten the phone. And we were walking along a beach, long sandy beach. So George and Gardner would have amazing beaches. I think this beach was probably somewhere in the Great Brack area. And we were taking this walk, and I just started taking pictures of the sand and the ocean. And the friends that we were with, or my family, they were kind of in some of the shots, but they weren't the focus. And in many of the shots, because it was kind of later afternoon, many of the shots, they were actually silhouetted against the light or something like that. And I just loved the art and the beauty in it. And I remember afterward showing the pictures to people, and everyone loved it. And my dad also loved it. And I was really impressed by my own eye for creativity. And so I was like, well, maybe I should actually take photography a little more seriously. And it was a few more years before I actually got my first DSLR camera and dove into it. But I see that very much as a defining point in my photography journey, to think, wow, you can take pictures for more than just necessity, and it can be an art form. And it sounds crazy to me to say that, like that wasn't always obvious, but it's not always obvious, and so many people don't even consider photography an art form. But that was kind of my turning point to say, wow, this is an art form, because before that I was very much into fine arts like painting, sketching. I loved acrylic paints. I did a lot of charcoal sketches constantly. Like I would be that girl that goes to a restaurant or a coffee shop, and I sit there with my sketchbook and I'm drawing, and being able to capture things through a lens rather than through my own imagination was just this new field of creativity that opened up to me. So after that experience is when I was inspired to get my first camera, and it was a Canon ATD. And so I got this camera when I was probably 17 years old, if I remember correctly. And I loved it. It was an amazing experience to have that kind of control, just to have that immediate quality from the photos. And I had two lenses from the get-go, a zoom lens and then a 18 to 55 millimeter. And so it was a really great fun time of exploration, fun time of discovery. One thing to know about me is also that I took the manual and I read it cover to cover, because I knew nothing about shooting with a professional camera, and I was like, I've got this, let's read it, let's find out what we can. And I started exploring with settings and different modes that you can shoot in. And that's when I think my photography journey went to the next level, and it opened up a lot of doors for me in exploration and growing my skill. And yes, I look back at those photos and I'm like, I knew nothing. But if I hadn't taken that step, I never would have learned. Another very significant point in my photography journey was when I actually spent 6 months in Australia. And it was significant in many ways, but one of the biggest turning points, I would say this is when I actually started to take portraits and portrait photography seriously. So before this, I was doing a lot of nature and landscape photography. It was what I was surrounded by. It was what inspired me, and it was what I thought was beautiful. I did a lot of bird photography, which I might someday like to go back to as well. But I wasn't taking a lot of portraits. I took a few portraits of my sister kind of casually, but it wasn't my focus at all. And two reasons why this time in Australia changed that for me One was I was doing a photography course during that time, and the course had certain assignments that we had to do, and some of those assignments included portrait photographs, which obviously made me explore that in a new way. But secondly, I was surrounded by so many people, whether they were people working with me or people that I came into contact with, new friends that I made, providing me with a lot of subjects, a lot of people to actually explore this new type of photography and step into being a portrait photographer. So how is it that all of these different styles of photography relate, and how did I get to where I am now from that point? Firstly, I love how when I photograph someone, they can interact with their environment and allow their environment to inspire them in the photographs, in the scenery. So many of the shoots I do are in places like on a beach or in some sort of beautiful natural environment. I also love taking photos indoors, and that's something which is developed with time, and I think it relates in many ways as well. But truly for me, that synergy of you, your life, who you are and what you represent with the place that you live in or the place that you love to be in is so incredible, so significant. And so that is how all of these came together for me and relate for me. Since that point, since the turning point for me and stepping into portrait photography, I have spent several years honing the craft and really improving my skill. And I knew all along that I have so much that I can still learn. I know that today I still have so much I can learn. I also think that if you stop learning or stop growing, stop trying to improve on whatever skill you have, and photography in particular, you stagnate and you really lose out on so much that you could still do, so much potential. So I never want to do that, but I have spent a lot of years and a lot of time and a lot of effort either educating myself or just putting into practice. And I think that can be the life's best teacher, can often be putting something into practice, just doing it. And I am so proud of how far I've come, and I have so much more that I still want to do. And I just hope that this can both inspire you to follow your dreams, but also inspire you to possibly be part of my journey and join me in this as I continue to photograph people and explore what that relationship between your environment and you as a person can be in your photographs, and how that can relate to you or enhance the photos that you're taking, that you don't have to have all that pressure on yourself either. So yeah, that is basically my photography journey, how I've gotten here. And there's a lot more that I can talk about, a lot more details, the in-betweens. But essentially, I have just been inspired in so many ways. And the key to my growth has really just been embracing those inspirations as they come along until eventually I could see the bigger meaning in each and every one of them.